Speaking of hemp, nice segue there. Why don't you introduce your guests? We talked a little bit before the show began, and of course, I talked to him on your other show about a month ago, or listened to as he was talking about Motown wants to go hemp. So why don't you take it away?
Well, of course, Greg Pawlowski is a long-term cannabis advocate here in the state of Michigan. And in addition to that, has elevated himself from a position of just being an advocate to actually being involved in local city government, not just local government, Detroit city government, which is not only impressive but also dangerous. So, Greg Pawlowski is a special advisor to the mayor and to other committees in regards to the hemp industry and where it could potentially take the city of Detroit. Greg, welcome to 420 Post.
Thank you very much for having me, Rick.
You mentioned, Mike mentioned earlier on our Jazz Cabbage Cafe conversation, you talked about a meeting that you'd had with the mayor, which took place just prior to the announcement of the brand new set of cannabis business retailer adult use licensing that's going to be going on. But your conversation with the mayor specifically surrounded hemp. Could you discuss that again with us?
Sure. Excuse me. Um, the mayor, we were talking about cannabis policy in general. We were talking about the licensing types, and I was mentioning to the mayor of Detroit what I usually talk about at the city commission level meetings that I go to about the iceberg effect. We always talk about the five licenses up on top of the iceberg, but underneath the iceberg, in the water, is just so much more of the iceberg that is not fully aware, and there's just so much more possibilities and potential. And that's usually where industrial hemp usually falls into, and the 25,000 different products that it can manufacture, help to manufacture, and make better. And during the meeting with Mayor Duggan as well as George Cushingberry, we were talking about a particular line item in the budget that the mayor was really upset about, which was $3.5 million per year to cut all of our vacant properties in the city of Detroit twice a year, which is
When you
mandated
say
by
cut, you mean cut the lawn.
cut the lawn. Yes, cut the lawn. And so we were talking about utilizing that $3.5 million in a different way, and utilizing those vacant parcels to grow industrial hemp and creating job opportunities for the citizens of Detroit, giving back a education, but also an opportunity to be self-sufficient and be proud. And we were talking about a bunch of different possibilities, and I wasn't exactly didn't know exactly how serious Mayor Duggan truly was on it um, until that meeting, which was fantastic to have. It was an honor to take it. Um, but then again, last night I was talking to the chief of staff for Mayor Duggan, and I hadn't heard anything because of the election and things of that nature. And I didn't want to be, I didn't want to, poke the bear too many times with the mayor. So took a hands-off approach a little bit and waited. I waited for this time to actually be back in contact with the mayor's office, and the chief of staff was saying that yes, the mayor definitely wants to move forward with it. He has already set aside certain policy analysts in the administration to start looking at how the city can work with the current legislative abilities in the law for Detroit. And we're looking at creating some type of test partials, quite possibly as early as next spring. And then if that goes well, then we will open it up to more parcels through the city of Detroit. And that's incredibly phenomenal. And I also mentioned that to the mayor of River Rouge, and Mayor River Rouge is open to the idea as well. So I get two hooks and two mayors.
Now, Greg, this is really, first of all, it's fantastic news and congratulations and thank you for the work that you're doing. Oftentimes, when you're looking at trying to rehabilitate dilapidated properties, that's something that we involve scientists with. Are you talking about working with Wayne State University or perhaps some of the other regional universities in order to maybe engage their scientists in this effort?
Yeah, well, actually, we're talking with Wayne County Community College District. We were talking with those guys for training programs, and Wayne County Community District a couple of years ago had some brainstorming meetings regarding how the community district would be able to best uh, satisfy the needs for the area,
Mhm.
and this would be one hell of a great opportunity. They also happen to have in Taylor a new herbology campus as well that just reopened or opened up. So there's an opportunity for horticulture at a mass scale, and this might be something that they wish to engage in, but we'll approach that when it comes up. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of opportunity for education, advocacy, and training for sure.
Have you identified how many parcels in the city or how many potential acres of land you could put under till for the hemp program?
Well, I asked the I asked the mayor how many vacant properties that we happen to have, or land owned parcels through the land bank, to be more accurate, and he was saying 75,000. And
Mhm.
I said, "Wow." Uh, he said, "Well, how many would qualify for being uh, with no permanent structure currently on it, where we could actually, go to work right away?" And he was saying roughly about 35,000. So I'm not exactly sure what the test program will look like. I would probably imagine somewhere in a capacity of 10 to 25 around the city to begin with. But if I can get 1,000 for next year in the test program, I'd be happy with that.
Well, remember, a big test program involves a lot of infrastructure and maybe a more moderate test program, at least initially. But
Yeah,
while that's exciting, I certainly know that Detroit has a lot of vacant properties. Oftentimes they abut each other. So if you were to consider multiple properties for the same purpose, you might be able to ignore property lines and have an actually much larger parcel than the map might indicate initially.
absolutely, absolutely. You're right. And also, as it gives an opportunity for the community to come together, if we were to
Mhm.
grant those empty parcels to a nonprofit community organization, which would then basically be able to run said farm, that would be most advantageous for the citizens of Detroit.
I can absolutely see that taking place. Mike, did you have any questions? This is really exciting on a hemp level.
Yeah, getting back to your starter field. Again, I'm no expert on hemp, but I've been on the iHemp hour now for a year, and they recommend you start out small because it's a lot trickier than you think. And then if you're not growing for human consumption, you grow different types of hemp. I mean, if you're growing for textiles or you're going to make composite materials for autos. And of course, iHemp would love to see Ford or GM get involved with this because already Porsche and BMW are instead of using plastic composites for the auto interiors and exteriors, they're starting to do hemp in that area. And if you got a big force like Ford behind it, and maybe Billy Ford, since he's a very green kind of guy,
Mhm.
might be interested in doing something like that. But I know you haven't had a chance to have that conversation, but certainly there's a lot of very big interest in this area. And I think it'd do wonders for the city of Detroit. But I think you mentioned in on Rick's show that there was something like 39,000 vacant properties in Detroit, or some huge number like that.
Correct. Actually, there's 75,000 vacant parcels available in the land bank. 35,000 of them currently do not have any permanent structures located on them. So that would be where we would pulling from. Also, we would also talk to the Detroit Public School System as well. Currently, right now, if one of their properties is not being used, they will demolish the building. Unfortunately, when they do that, a lot of lead and asbestos is laid onto the ground. So you're talking about a very toxic site. There are signs that are posted on those DPS parcels that basically say, please, no playing, no walking, no rolling around on the ground or anything like that because of the toxicity inside the ground. So if we were able to take those parcels and remediate those, and then of course not use those seeds for food consumption, but later on, hopefully, uh, to your point, I would love to be in a position where we would be able to subsidize or somehow create an alternative food program for 20,000 DPS students that go to school hungry every day.
Mhm.
I mean, these kids do not know if they're going to have a home. They don't know if they're going to have a mom or dad or a grandma or grandpa when they get home. And a lot of the kids are actually acting as parents in a lot of cases when they don't have the capacity or the ability to feed themselves, let alone their siblings. And if there is something that I can do with my advocacy and my ability to network to try to help these kids, 20,000 of them, feed themselves. That would be the culminating part of my entire life.
No.
When I talked to the mayor about that, just that fact alone, he said, "Is there anybody else in the entire country or state that is doing anything like this?" And I said, "No, sir, you would be the first one and you would be leading the way." And I said, "And I really, really want to be a part of that."
Yeah,
Greg,
absolutely. I'm sorry. Go
I'm,
ahead, Greg.
I'm just a little concerned. I know the industrial hemp program here in Michigan has a requirement that it be grown on agricultural property, and that would require some rezoning in the city of Detroit. But you're Greg, man. You got the city council wrapped around that pinky, right? So you can get rezoning. That's
Well,
pshaw work for
Piece
that's
you,
of
right?
cake,
that's
right? Piece of cake.
yeah, that's kind of interesting that you mentioned that because actually, since the last time I was on talking to you, Rick, is Councilman McAllister actually appointed a new commissioner for my district. So therefore, as of this upcoming Friday, when the new gentleman gets sworn in, I will no longer be a Detroit City Planning Commissioner. However, that frees me up exponentially to the executive branch and helping Mayor Duggan to do this. And so, I think it's actually appropriate timing for that to happen, so that way I can actually now engage the city efforts even more.